all the other fans were saying about Chelsea, we're in the mud, we're a mess, and where we're at in terms of challenging the big teams, I think we're in a good place.
I think Lavia and Caicedo is the midfield partnership going forward.
For me, after what Lavia's done in the Man City game and the Liverpool game, two of the best teams in this league, it would be criminal to drop him.
The worst player on the pitch, at the boys' feet, is the goalkeeper that asked to make the riskiest passes.
Cole Palmer is on fire and naturally he's going to get special treatment.
I didn't think I'd be sitting here on the Chelsea show and talkSPORT talking about how Cucurella was so important and how we missed him.
What had happened?
I have seen the change at that club since Roman left, what we're forced into, the rushed sale.
No one expected Chelsea to be anywhere near the position that they are right now in the league.
You can only judge this squad, I think, in 3 to 4 years' time.
Yeah.
Right now, I think you've got to give it an A.
Welcome to Inside Chelsea, your brand new talkSPORT show by Chelsea fans for Chelsea fans. We'll be here each and every week to discuss and analyse everything happening at Stamford Bridge, both on and off the pitch. Now, I am delighted to be joined by former Chelsea defender Jason Cundy, broadcaster and Chelsea fan Kweku Afari, and the man in the know, journalist Ben Jacobs. Jace!
Guys!
I'm so excited.
Very much so.
Jace, the last time we did a show together, we wrecked the studio, so we're not going to do it this time, are we?
No, we won't. We're doing Chelsea team. That was a while ago, Liv, a while ago.
You put me in a headlock, I remember, when we celebrated a goal.
It was, yes. That was back when we used to really win tournaments. Now we're a very different team.
It's about time talkSPORT made a Chelsea show, isn't it? Yeah?
Indeed.
Looking forward to it?
I am, Liv, yeah, because there's been so much turmoil at the football club in the last 18, 24 months. We know what's happened to the club, and it feels a little bit like we're starting to come out of that shadow.
Definitely going in the right direction. Kweku, you've been a Chelsea fan all your life.
Long time.
Long time.
Yeah,
you're getting old now.
I don't say my age, but I am getting old.
Don't worry, I'm in the same boat. Can you remember your first ever Chelsea game?
You know what? Got asked just before we came on air. I couldn't remember it. Off my old man. It was Chelsea versus Sunderland in 2001. Ooh. We lost 4-2.
Oh.
Yeah, and the reason I'm a Chelsea fan is because of Zola. I fell in love with Zola, and he was on the bench for that game. So yeah, terrible night.
Oh, so you didn't actually? Did he come on?
He came on. John Terry came on as well. Young John Terry.
I mean, that's all right.
Yeah.
And Ben, the man in the know, we're going to be focusing on Chelsea both on and off the pitch, but we are going to come to you because you are the man on this panel that knows everything there is to know about what's going on off the pitch, and there is a lot of it.
I appreciate you picking me up, but I have a complaint to start this show, which is Cundy gets to celebrate with you in a headlock, you get to talk about Zola, and I get all the difficult questions.
That's why you're here, Ben, because we don't know what's going on. I actually think that's like not a lot of Chelsea fans. I think that's been the issue over the last 6 months especially, is that people don't actually know what's going on because there's not been many representatives from the club speaking out, and there's all this talk on social media and from papers and stuff. So it will actually be good to get what is going on, and obviously that rift between Bowley and Eghbali, and has it been pretty bad?
I think it's cordial, and we have to remember it's a professional football club, and we'll speak about it a bit later. But in essence, both of them want control. Only one party, Clear Lake Capital, which is Behdad Eghbali, Jose Feliciano, or Todd Bowley and his people, can actually run the football club. So they're either going to have to get in a room and effectively kiss and make up, or they're going to have to do a negotiation where one will stay and one will go.
Oh, interesting. Right, OK, let's start with the Liverpool reaction then, because we obviously lost that game 2-1. But Jace, I don't think we played too badly at all. When you think of that battering we got at Anfield last season under Pochettino, like you said earlier, it feels like a step in the right direction, only losing 2-1 in a game that we actually could have drawn, probably.
I thought we played well, Liv. I think to go to Anfield in a place where clearly Slot's done a brilliant job so far. A very different looking Liverpool team. There's less chaos. It's far more managed. I felt we controlled the game well. To come away with a defeat was obviously disappointing, but if there are positives to come out with, I thought for large parts of the game, we showed what we can be as a club, as a team, moving forward. I know we're going to speak about Lavia. He and Caicedo, I thought, were outstanding in the middle of the park. It's been a troubled area for Chelsea for a number of years now. But I felt that we went there. And I think also when you consider that Reece James has come back, it was Lavia's first start, Reece's first start. We had players that were suspended. Obviously, Fofana was out, Cucurella was out. He's had to shuffle his pack, and I think the fact that Reece played and we had Gusto left back, it wasn't quite the team that we wanted to go there in an ideal fashion, but I felt we put a really good performance in. And I've come away and I'm encouraged for the rest of the season.
Yeah, same. Since, I think, 2021, that's probably the first time we've had a fit side. And it's a Chelsea team that have been ravaged with injuries for a long time. And so going to Anfield, and maybe barring Gusto at left back and put in Cucurella, that's our strongest team. That's the team I really wanted to see. I love seeing Lavia in midfield next to Caicedo. I think that works really well, and hopefully we see that in the future for Chelsea. But going against Liverpool side that are settled, that have got 4 world-class players. I know that Alisson was missing, but you look at a Trent, look at a Van Dijk, look at Salah. These are some of the best players, not just in the Premier League, but in the world. And we put on a good showing. It's disappointing the way that we conceded that second goal straight after scoring. But I did see positive signs from Chelsea. And this season, our only losses have come against 2 of the sides that you imagine challenge for the title in Man City and Liverpool. So definitely encouraging signs, but I'm not one of these Chelsea fans that is a valiant loser. I want to go to Anfield and win. I've seen Chelsea go and do that. And so it was a good performance, but I want to see us take that next step.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, luckily, been at Anfield. I haven't gone to Anfield many times, but I've been there and watched us win. And I think, I thought a draw would have been a fair result. I actually don't think Liverpool did enough to win the game. Obviously, it was a penalty, and their second goal was very good. I still think defensively, Chelsea have issues, and we'll get onto that shortly. But Ben, I want to talk about Romeo Lavia because obviously, a couple of seasons ago, he was, the teenager that played the most minutes in the Premier League, looked brilliant for Southampton, comes to Chelsea, gets injured for pretty much the whole of last season. This season, he's played against Manchester City and Liverpool in 2 games that Chelsea have lost, but we've come away thinking, wow. And that says a lot about him, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I mean, everyone's going to be talking about the Liverpool game and Curtis Jones and how he bossed midfield and scored a goal, but Lavia was outstanding as well. And it was sort of telling for me that for much of the summer saga around both Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, it was Chelsea versus Liverpool. And then you go to Anfield flashing forwards and you see both Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo looking like a partnership. And this is why Chelsea invested in them. And you can talk about the depth, and I know we'll come on to Enzo in a moment, but Lavia's fit and became a bit of a forgotten figure at Stamford Bridge and Cobham. And we have to remember that despite all of the hype and the price tags, and can Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo play together? And is there room for Lavia, Caicedo, Enzo in a 3-person midfield? No, because you've got Cole Palmer, maybe even Christopher Nkunku. There's conundrums there. But in essence, when you boil it all down, in Lavia and Caicedo, you don't just have an engine room midfield, but you have 2 players that are perfect to actually develop a partnership. And this is why Enzo Maresca is picking them together and not pandering to clamour or price tags, but selecting players because they actually work together.
I mean, I actually tweeted that that they are a 10 out of 10 midfield. Maybe I've jumped the gun a little bit. But I actually think that Moises Caicedo, like I say, Ben, I think he's been unfairly treated since he signed for Chelsea. He was absolutely brilliant against Liverpool. I mean, that's the big question, though, now. I think Lavia and Caicedo is the midfield partnership going forward. Enzo Fernandez, talk to me. Talk to me about Enzo, because, like you say, a massive price tag, but with that partnership looking so strong against, a very, very good team, a team going for the league, where does this leave Enzo Fernandez?
I think it's going to be horses for courses. I think Maresca will find a game where Chelsea have more possession. And I think then you'll find that Enzo will probably play. The problem that he has got, and this is both Enzos, by the way, is what is Enzo's best position? In a shape where he is effectively a number 8, he then plays high. So how he's been playing recently, Caicedo, alongside Caicedo, he's one that sits slightly deeper. Enzo goes and joins. He wants that. That's when you either find Cucurella come inside, or whether it's Reece or Gusto. Yeah. So that makes up the extra man in midfield, pushes Enzo on. Lavia is slightly different. Lavia can do that, by the way, but the creativity side of it, I think you can make a case to say Enzo fills that hole there.
But does he, though? Can you tell me goals and assists that Enzo has scored or contributed at that end of the pitch?
There have been.
But is there that many?
No, but there have been. But I think we're still very much in the infancy of this midfield. Because Lavia has been out, I think we're still finding out under Maresca what this midfield is going to look like. There are a number of conundrums Ben has just mentioned there. You cannot play a 4-3-3 because Cole Palmer then has to either play out of position or doesn't play. That is not an option in my world. So the 4-2-3-1 has to be the formation we go with. Who plays alongside Caicedo? That's going to be the problem.
Yeah, because
I think there'll be certain games, Liverpool away, Lavia for me, because defensively we're a little bit more structured.
So it's basically in the bigger games, you're thinking when teams are you want to look to dominate a midfield or at least try. Yeah. Is that when we're going to see?
Yeah, because with Chelsea, in possession, it's really like a 4-2-2-3 with the, like you say, with the defender pushing into midfield, either Gusto or Cucurella to make up that 2 next to Caicedo. And then you have Enzo pushing up, like Jay said, to be that number 10 next to Cole Palmer, but out of possession. What Chelsea are is a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And you can't have Enzo Fernandez in a 4-4-2 because obviously Cole Palmer pushes up to press with Nicholas Jackson, and then you have Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. That doesn't work against a team like Liverpool.
Yeah.
But Lavia and Caicedo in a 4-4-2 when we haven't got the ball does work. And so, like Jay said, in those games where we need a bit more creativity, like the Brighton game, for example, Enzo was decent in that game. Those first time balls over the top, he can play those passes. We're yet to see Lavia do that. I'm not saying that he can't, but I think Enzo Fernandez in those big games, like you said, Liv, I don't think he can play because he hasn't got the legs. And unlike a player like Jorginho, for example, who'd never had the legs for Chelsea, but he had that 2 or 3 year spell where he was dictating the tempo of the game. When Italy won the Euros, when Chelsea won the Champions League, he was a huge part of that. Enzo, at his age, hasn't shown he can dictate tempo. So what does he actually bring to Chelsea? And at this moment in time, he's trying to figure that out. I'm not saying that he can't learn, but for me, after what Lavia's done in the Man City game and the Liverpool game, 2 of the best teams in this league, it would be criminal to drop him. He has to start next to Caicedo, who is, again, one of our best players this season.
This is what I mean, Ben. We're talking about Lavia having such an effect on games where we've lost. Can you think of that many games that Enzo has affected? Or what do you think Enzo's biggest strengths are? Where does he fit? Like Jay says, Enzo Maresca's got to work out where his best position is. Where is Enzo Fernandez's best position? And is there a way, without dropping Cole Palmer or moving him out to the right?
It's not an option.
No, that's not an option. But is there a way that you can fit both of them in that team together?
It's tricky. I mean, if you drop Cole Palmer, you would assume that Christopher Nkunku comes into that position anyway.
Because he's not on the left.
When I was in America in pre-season, he was trialling a 4 in midfield with 2 8s, and Enzo was one of them. So that's a possibility if you make a tactical tweak. But for me, it's not really about Enzo's strengths at the moment because the stats are not on his side, and Maresca will be looking at that. When he's played for Chelsea, albeit we go back in different formations under Maurizio Pochettino, his win rate in a Chelsea team is 30%. Without him, they're winning 80% of games. Now, it's skewed by the fact, I suppose, that they finished the season on a flurry under Pochettino. They've started well under Enzo Maresca when Enzo Fernandez has not always been in the starting 11. But those stats are quite damning. And we're talking about 60-plus games now. So it's not a small amount of data. So that's going against him, I feel, statistically. In terms of the fit, I think that you need pace from your deeper midfielders and tenacity. But Enzo's big asset is his creativity. So in an ideal world, you would say Moises Caicedo is kind of your midfield destroyer and Enzo Fernandez is your Toni Kroos, your midfield metronome. But under Pochettino, that didn't really work. So then all you can really do is say it's Lavia Caicedo, push Enzo forwards. There's no space for him at the moment. The other thing is, I agree with Jason, by the way, because whilst you were answering, you were also writing a tactical board on a bit of paper, which is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. Yeah, I mean, don't look, it's just a couple of circles.
By the end of it, he's going to have an 11
he's
and he'll pass it
on
on
his
to
page.
Enzo.
It's like, Enzo here, Caicedo there. I think Enzo Maresca has got a real job on his hands trying to work out where...
It's the whole squad, by the way.
Wait. Do you think that, though? Because I look at Chelsea now, I look at Chelsea in the Premier League, I look at Chelsea in the Conference League, and I think Enzo Maresca knows his best 11. Maybe the Lavia thing changes it a little bit because I think he probably comes into the midfield. But it does look like Enzo's got his first 11 for the Premier League and his second 11 for the Conference League.
He certainly has about 13, 14 players that he looks for. We'll talk maybe about Jadon Sancho. Pedro Neto is another one that I think Pedro Neto's best position is on the right, but I think he can challenge Jadon Sancho on the left. He has a number of problems that he needs to solve. When you say his best team, what is his best team depending on the opposition? I don't think there's one size fits all with this squad. And I think he's still very much trying to work that one out. We saw Jadon Sancho, I think Trent had a brilliant game defensively, never really troubled him. As soon as Neto comes on, totally different kettle of fish.
Trent was like, I want to go off.
But he gives you different options from the bench. He has got... Maresca is one of the very fortunate manager that he can go and do what we did away at Bournemouth. He can bring on Pedro Neto, he can bring on Jadon Sancho, he can bring on Felix, players that can affect games. We have a really strong squad. Yes, he's got a squad for the Carabao Cup and the Conference League. He also has a squad for the Premier League. I'm not quite sure he knows exactly his best 11 because I'm not sure there is one.
He doesn't really mess about either, Enzo Maresca. He's very effective when it comes to changes. You see a lot of Premier League fans, they get frustrated with their bosses. If you look at Spurs fans of Ange, if you look at Manchester United fans of Ten Hag, they want the managers to make changes quickly. Maresca does not mess around. If the team's not working or something's not working, he will change at half-time. He did that at Anfield. He's done that in games this season to effect. And again, we're lucky because we have such a deep squad. Can bring on the likes of a João Felix or a Pedro Neto or a Christopher Nkunku.
You mentioned Kweku. Another one that can come off the bench.
It's such a deep team.
Which,
what frustrated me, we'll get onto Jadon Sancho in just a second. What frustrated me about Enzo in that Liverpool game was Neto was so good on the left, getting past Trent every time. We then moved him to the right. Nkunku's not a left winger. And we brought Nkunku on and put him on the left. And he was ineffective the whole game.
I felt the decision to do that was the right thing. What I felt the Maresca could have done better. I think Jackson goes out on the left.
Yeah,
I think
because he's
Nkunku down the middle,
100%.
Pedro on the right. And Jackson, for anyone that's seen Jackson,
naturally, he likes to drift out from the left anyway.
He's good out there. He's underrated out there. But because he'd already scored, it's a big, bold move to take a man out the middle that's already scored in the game.
Is it though?
I think it's
not that late on.
I felt I would have gone deaf. As soon as I see the subs,
you were like thinking they're swapping.
That it makes Neto out to the right.
Yeah.
Because as soon as who came off?
So James and Lavia came off.
Lavia came off, but then when he goes out
and Sancho came off as well.
Sancho came off. But when he goes out that right hand side, for me the only choice was Jackson on the left, gives him another challenge, and Nkunku down the middle. And Nkunku's not a wide player.
His hand was forced as well because I think there was a plan going into that game that after 15 minutes, Lavia and Reece James come off because of...
Madueke's the one that also came off as well.
Yeah.
And Madueke is interesting with Chelsea because we've got very good players, but I think we've got one too many left-footed players. If Pedro Neto was right-footed, that would be absolutely perfect. And he was really good on the left-hand side, but you see that he wants to cut in, and when he cuts in, the angle's not there for him because obviously he's a left footer. So I think that we've got a balance there of very, very good attacking players. He's trying to find his best combination. But when you go to a game at Anfield, I feel as Chelsea fans can be very harsh on our team.
Yeah.
This is a Liverpool team that don't lose at Anfield, really. It's a Liverpool team that are very settled, that have only conceded, I think, 3 goals this season. I think our record of only conceding 15 is under threat with this Liverpool side right now. And so we have to put it into context. We are disappointed we didn't win the game, disappointed at how we conceded that second goal. But if you look at where we were at the beginning of the season, all the other fans were saying about Chelsea, we're in the mud, we're a mess. And where we're at in terms of challenging the big teams, I think we're in a good place.
They're all eating their words massively. I think you speak to any fan that was like, oh, and no one expected Chelsea to be anywhere near the position that they are right now in the league and like going fairly well and only lost against City and Liverpool. In that game, Ben, I mean, Cole Palmer, we could talk about Cole Palmer. Everyone's been speaking about Cole Palmer, Cold Palmer, as I like to call him. Curtis Jones had probably one of the best games I've ever seen him play. Pretty much man-marked Cole Palmer out of the game. And I'm now thinking that if any team has got any brain when they play against Chelsea, that is what you do. Stick someone on him the whole game and do not let him play because it worked. And you look at the two players, you put Cole Palmer up here, you put Curtis Jones, a very good player, but in terms of like ability, I think there's a big difference. But look what happens.
Yeah, I think Cole Palmer is on fire and naturally he's going to get special treatment and he might well get 2 players policing him in certain games. And Jones, as you say, was phenomenal in shutting him out the game largely, but Chelsea are on the road as well. And the advantage for Maresca is if he's going to persist with these old school wingers that stay wide, and that's what you have to understand about Maresca, because when you're up against Trent Alexander-Arnold, you could say you actually want your wingers to come in and challenge him and run behind him and go out of position. But instead, Maresca's philosophy is these wingers need to stay wide, be old school, but then have the output of wide forwards, even though they're starting by hugging the touchline. And what that means is that there's a lot of space. So if Cole Palmer is getting man-marked, but the wingers stay wide, other defenders are still going to get stretched. And even though he wasn't able to in that game, Palmer's still going to get away. The other thing about Palmer, which is quite interesting, is if you use Nkunku or Enzo Fernandez or Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall in that 8, advanced 8, 10, false 9, there's so many names that we can give that position, but effectively it's just the third midfield spot. Yeah. If you use someone else there, and in the end it's Cucurella that inverts, Reece James will be able to bomb forwards. And by bombing forwards on the right, If Cole Palmer's restored to a wide right area, which is another possibility, if Reece James is overlapping, he'll be able to float in a central area as well. So Maresca's got two options, basically. But in that game, he wasn't effective. But of course, across everything we've seen of Cole Palmer and Chelsea, he's been a Ballon d'Or contender. So I don't think we can panic too much about that one performance.
Yeah, he was getting best player of the world shouts. What I would say, what you just mentioned there, we didn't see Reece James. I can't wait for the moment I see Reece James overlapping that right winger again, because I think he was a little bit reserved against Liverpool, obviously because of the injury issues.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to see him bombing down that right-hand side.
I don't know whether we're going to see much of it, the way that Maresca plays, though.
Surely.
I don't think we will, Liv. I think we're going to...
but it's Reece. When he gets to the byline, I'm like...
You push an open door with me on Reece overlapping, right? He came off the bench against Forest away last year. The cross for Jackson.
Unreal.
I don't think that we're going to necessarily see too much of that. Having said that, though, Gusto did play quite high and wide against Liverpool, but that's not his natural game, not being a left footer. Look, I'm not saying we won't see it. What I'm saying is that what I've seen thus far, I think that the inverted fullback, unless we see Cucurella come in, and therefore you want to be balanced, but then we go to a three, and Reece will be three of a
centre-back. It's a waste.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we won't see it.
You know where that comes from, though, and I know we're going to speak about it, that comes from the goalkeeper, because at Leicester, what we saw is that Hermansen stepped into that back three to make it a back four, and it allows your overloads out wide. So it allowed Leicester's fullbacks to go and join the wingers and allow the wingers to come inside, like you're saying, and create those overloads out wide. And that's why Leicester was so effective. But because Sanchez, his first step is backwards because he's not too comfortable on the ball, it doesn't allow him to step into that back four. If we had a Hermansen, for example, then we're seeing overloads out wide. Then we might see Reece bombing on. Then we might see Cucurella bombing on. Then we might see Jadon Sancho coming inside. Then we might see Madueke coming inside. But because of Robert Sanchez and his frailties, and because he's not the keeper that we expected in terms of with the ball at his feet, we're not seeing that. And that does affect his whole system. And when Maresca came in, a huge part of what we thought we'd see was the goalkeeper being part of the play. And as a result of Sanchez not being too comfortable, we're not seeing that. And that's affecting the rest of the team.
I mean, managers wanting goalkeepers, you know, we were saying before we came on air, you know, they're the worst players out of the 11 on the pitch with the ball at their feet. And Enzo Maresca is persisting with Robert Sanchez playing the ball with his feet. Now, against Liverpool, that's just one example. The amount of times we got ourselves into messy situations because of that. Where do you stand, Jace, on Robert Sanchez? Because, I mean, it's an interesting topic of debate. Kweku's face says it all. I wish you'd have just called that.
Well, look, first and foremost, Sanchez is a goalkeeper, right? That's his day job. That's what he's paid for. In the modern game now, and it's not just a Chelsea problem. I watched Southampton, McCarthy. I don't even seen them try and play out for the back of times. He's getting. Yeah. But here's the problem. In the modern game, the player, technically the worst player on the pitch with the ball at his feet, is asked to make the most riskiest passes in an area. If you get robbed, chances are there's going to be a shot on target within seconds. Yeah. And it amazes me that there's a time and a place to play the ball. Even as a defender, if the pass isn't on, don't play it. Sometimes you have to go long. Sometimes, folks, in the modern game, that is a no-no. And he's been instructed, and this has been going on for a number of years, they are instructed, do not go long. If you go long, you instantly give possession away, and then we're on the back foot. That comes from the gaffer.
I know.
And Maresca's going to take some responsibility. And by the way, he has.
He has, yeah. I've seen him post-match,
we will concede, he's come out and said, we will concede goals this way. He's accepting that Robert Sanchez, and that's what I said, the worst player on the pitch, at the ball at his feet, is the goalkeeper that asked to make the riskiest passes.
When you look at like the teams that have won the league over the last 10 years, I mean, City have won about 8 of them, but teams that win the Premier League have a world-class goalkeeper. Yeah. What is Robert Sanchez? Is he good enough to be Chelsea's goalkeeper if Chelsea have ambitions to next year be challenging for the title?
No. The simple answer is no. And I really like Robert Sanchez. Apparently he's a good character in the dressing room. But he lost his place to Petrovic last season. Petrovic is, in terms of modern football, doesn't provide managers what you need. And so I think that tells you where Sanchez is. He lost his job to Jason Steele at Brighton when we brought him in. And so he does make great saves. Think about the Bournemouth game. Think about the Wolves game. He's a keeper that can win you points. He saved that penalty, despite the fact that he gave away that penalty against Bournemouth. But he is a good shot stopper. But in terms of what Maresca wants to do, and if we're all in on Maresca, then he's not the keeper to do it. And I think you look at catalysts, right, at major football clubs, and we all thought Aaron Ramsdale was a great keeper, but Arteta was ruthless and went and got a David Raya when we all thought that Ramsdale was good enough to win them the league.
Yep.
You look at a Liverpool that got to a Champions League final with Karius, obviously had a stinker of a final, brought in Alisson and that changed it. So I do think that a world-class goalkeeper is needed to win you a league title. And also, I do think another catalyst is that centre-back, that commanding centre-back. I think Levi Colwill is absolutely brilliant. I like facets of Tosin's game. I like facets of Fofana's game. But when you look at what Arsenal did, when Saliba came in, it was a completely different complex, that back four. You look at how the levels that Gabriel went to when Saliba came in. And you look at what Liverpool did with Van Dijk before that. He made other centre-backs like a Lovren, like a Matip, like a Gomez, look like world-class centre-backs. And so, despite the fact that I think Levi Colwill is absolutely brilliant, I think we need an alpha next to him to take us to that level where we win the league titles.
So what does that then mean for Fofana that's come in? And, you know, this season Enzo said he's only going to play a game a week because of his injury issues. Because I like that too. I think, Jace, I thought Levi Colwill, thought he had a poor game by his own standards against Liverpool. But I think this season, he's really stepped it up. He's been one of Chelsea's best players. Where do you stand with what Kweku said? Do you think Fofana and Colwill is a good enough centre-back partnership?
I think the club have made that call. Badia Shield has
I'm
come
asking
in,
what you think, Jace, not what the club said.
In terms of what they've bought, I don't see Chelsea going out and buying another centre-half.
No, I don't either.
I don't see that. I don't. What you said there, where Liverpool went out and got Van Dijk. Saliba was out on loan. That player was already there.
Who could we get? Like, if you're saying...
I don't think we're getting anyone. I think what we got is what we got.
Yeah.
And I think Maresca's now, I think our best partnership is going to be Colwill and Fofana. They're our best two. Once you get beyond that, I thought Tosin, I don't mind Tosin. I think the ball at his feet, he's a good ball playing centre-half. Once you get beyond Tosin, Badia Shield, still yet to prove it to me. Dizazi, still yet to prove it to me. So I think once you get beyond those two, I think the drop-off, you see it quite obviously that the standard there, you don't have the backup that we've had in years gone by.
Yeah, when you look at... OK, so, Kweku, if you look at the back four, who's Chelsea's best back four when everyone's fit then?
It's so interesting because I didn't think I'd be sitting here on the Chelsea show on talkSPORT talking about how Cucurella was so important and how we missed him.
What had happened?
But he was... I think we missed him massively, and I really like Malo Gusto. He was one of our best signings last season.
He's a brilliant right back. He's a brilliant right back.
But he's been asked to do things I don't think he's very comfortable at doing in terms of that inverting role. And I know when he was playing in France, he played as an attacking midfielder, but that's not what he does best. And so I think Marc Cucurella has definitely missed his intensity. I think he would have loved it Anfield away as well.
He gets up for it. He's one of those players that can get in. He can get in someone's head, can't he?
So
like
in my opinion, I think our best back four would be Cucurella at left back. I think Fofana, Levi Colwill, or Colwill, Fofana, and then Reece James when he's fit, personally.
I think everyone agree with that.
I would agree with
Chelsea
that.
fans would go beyond that.
Although, to play devil's advocate, if the right side is inverted, which is what Enzo Maresca did at Leicester, then Reece James has got a task on his hand. Everybody knows that fit James, bombing forwards, is one of the best right backs in the world. But 90, 80, 70% fit Reece inverting, personally, I would take Malo Gusto.
Would you? Oh.
That was so
Sorry,
shocking.
yeah. I got so shocked when you saying you picked Malo Gusto over Reece James.
Your wallet.
So you would... That's really... I mean,
in the inverted role specifically.
So in the inverted role, would you agree? Would you pick...
No, I wouldn't. I think that Reece James does everything better on the football pitch than Malo Gusto. I fit Reece James. And I know it's years and years ago, it's like 5 or 6 years ago, but when he was at Wigan, he did play in centre midfield. Lampard tried it a little bit. I feel like being an inverted fullback is different to be a centre midfielder, but I feel like Reece James' quality on his ball, his calmness, his physicality, he just does everything better than most players in our football team. And I feel like you have to get him on the pitch. Even if you're inverting, even if you're playing with a wide fullback, Reece James has to play if he's fit. And I love Malo Gusto, but he's not on the level of Reece James.
I mean, everyone knows how much I love Reece James. What frustrates me about Reece James is that every time he comes back from injury, you think, oh, is he going to take a bit of time to get into it? And then he pulls off that performance against Gakpo, who's been actually really impressive when he's played this season, just looks solid in every aspect of his game. And there's me in the away end at Anfield sat there going, oh God, is he injured? Like, is he going to?
We all feel like
you get those 5 unbelievable games a season. But that's it.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a massive season for Reece, a huge season for him. We all know his injury problems, and it's been a travesty for the boy because there is no question, when fit, and fully fit, there ain't many better in the world.
I think we're being robbed of one of the best right-backs we've ever seen.
And it's
I don't know if that's a really bold statement.
No, but right now, it's hard to argue with that because of what the injuries, there was a stat knocking about how many games since the Champions League final he and Chilwell have played together. It's like you're barely into double figures,
Ridiculous.
And look, injury is part and parcel of the game. Fingers crossed that we can see a fit Reece, because if we get a fit Reece, not only do we help, Chelsea fans, but also England.
No left winger is getting past Reece, a fully fit Reece James. One player we haven't actually spoke about is Nicholas Jackson. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying Rory Jennings, I'm really good friends with and have been for years. But his comments about Nicholas Jackson have infuriated me because you can see, anyone with eyes that watches football can see, Jace, the impact that Nicholas Jackson has on a football pitch. I don't think he's ever going to be that clinical, scores every chance he gets, Erling Haaland-like player. But the amount he offers you on a football pitch, not just as a number 9, but out wide, I think people are really, really underestimating how important a player like him is to our team.
I think what we've got to do with Nicholas Jackson, and he's not the only one I'm going to say this about, you could actually describe this over several players. The age of the player, the lack of experience in the Premier League, and what potential there is. I think we all need, as football fans, and we're all guilty of it, we're very quick to judge. We're all very quick to pigeonhole players. He ain't good enough. I've got to tell you that there are a lot of qualities about this boy. He's a rough diamond. There is a player in there. 5 Premier League goals this season, OK? Everyone's waxing lyrical about what Kai Havertz is doing at Arsenal, and clearly he's doing OK. You put his games up in the Premier League to Nicholas Jackson's.
No comparison, yeah.
Right now, outstripping him.
Yep.
So I think as Chelsea fan, he's not a Drogba. I'm not sure he'll ever be.
Do you know, no. But do you know, he's not a Drogba. He's definitely not a Drogba. I mean, it's so difficult to compare anyone to Didier Drogba. No. However, he has got a better record. I think it's on his opening couple of seasons or something like that. His opening season, he's got more goals than Didier Drogba, which I'm not saying is going to go on to be Didier Drogba, Kweku, but it's a really good sign in a Chelsea team that's been so unsettled.
Yeah. You look at when Drogba first came in, right? 04-05 season was decent. We won the league, so we weren't fussed about the performances. But he was a bit shaky. Chelsea fans weren't having him. 05-06 got a little bit better, but again, we did go in the summer in 06 and buy Andrei Shevchenko to be that number 9. And 06-07 is when Drogba really kicked on. So what Jason's saying about giving players time, we don't just buy ready-made players now, Chelsea. You've seen in terms of the approach that we're buying players who can develop into those world-class stars. And Nicholas Jackson has shown me over his first season, not a half season and a quarter, that he's got those qualities. Last year, without any penalties, scored 14 Premier League goals. This year, he's on 5 in 8. That's a great record for a striker who, before that at Villarreal, had 1 season of men's football.
One season playing centre forward. He was never a centre forward. This is what people don't understand as well. He's playing in a new position. It's so impressive, Jason.
I'm a fan, and I think that we need, as I said, football fans, we're very quick to judge. I think what Kweku's just said there about his numbers at the moment stack up. His numbers are good. There's always that, it looks a little bit times there's more development to come. Yeah. And that's where Maresca comes in. Develop this player. Let's have this conversation 12 months' time and see exactly where we are with him, because I'm encouraged.
That's a good thing, though, when you have a player, first season, scored 17 goals in all competitions, 1 more than Didier Drogba in his first season at Chelsea, and like you rightly say, he's rough-edged. And you would actually prefer a player that's kind of prolific off the bat, but also incredibly infuriating. The other thing about Jackson is that you're coming off the back of the Graham Potter era in particular, where Chelsea simply couldn't score. And since then, it's always been about who are they going to sign? What big name is going to be the number 9? And Jackson unfairly has been compared against a mysterious, not signed player. And everyone's decided we'd prefer X, Y, or Z, who's not come in, over Jackson. But flip it the other way. Look at who Chelsea didn't get. Samu, John Duran, Victor Osimhen, for whatever reason. Some of them, they walked away. We know with Victor Osimhen, they couldn't get it over the line late on. Every single one of those players is on fire at the moment. So the Chelsea scouting must be foundationally strong. And before they moved for any of those players, Jackson came in. And I just don't believe that scouting department and that management have got Jackson wrong when consistently who they've scouted, whether they've arrived or not, has turned out to be a very good player, and he's getting better and better and better with every game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Nicholas Jackson, his performances tell you everything you need to know, especially if you watch Chelsea regularly. You'll understand what he brings, and I think it's been a brilliant start to his Chelsea career. Jace, before we move on to off-the-field subjects, which is going to get interesting. Ben, that's it. Ben, that's
I'm the time, actually. I've got to
go. Just as a whole, when you think about sort of what you were thinking about when Enzo Maresca got appointed off the back of a very good end of the season under Pochettino, to where Chelsea are now, currently it's 8 or 9 games into the season. Yep. Has it exceeded expectations? Have you been impressed with what you've seen under Enzo?
Without question. Look, we ended the season well under Poch. In the last 23 games, we have only lost 3 games, and it's been against Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal. That tells you a little bit about who we are.
Yeah. We
are, at the moment, a side that's actually chasing for that top 4. I don't believe we're going to win the title. After I start a lot of Chelsea fans saying we can't, we're not ready for that. We're not that team yet. But where we are now, we're a team that's looking to go to certainly, I think, beat teams in and around us, challenge for that top 4. I think what Maresca has done has been quite remarkable because people said to me before a ball was kicked, where do you think Chelsea will finish? I said to them, we could be 4th or 14th. I just don't know.
I said top 4.
I don't know what we were going to look like.
Yeah, true.
Because there's been so much turmoil at the club. I'm lucky enough to work for the club, and I have seen the change at that club since Roman left, what we're forced into, the rushed sale, the transfer window that was open when we brought in players like Koulibaly, Aubameyang, Sterling. The transfer policy has completely changed since then. All those players have been moved out, high earners. They've now gone for a younger demographic. You can see what the squad looks like. This squad you can only judge this squad, I think, in 3 to 4 years' time.
Yeah.
And right now, I think you've got to give it an A. Where I am at the moment, if I'm going to mark him out in the score report,
can you write it down?
He's getting a big fat A.
He's getting a big fat A.
I don't know. I feel like we are where we're supposed to be. Right?
Really?
If you look at our fixtures, so we played against Man City at the beginning.
Kweku's doing this little scribble down.
We lost. We beat Wolves. We drew against Palace. We beat Bournemouth. We beat West Ham. We beat Brighton. We drew against Forest, and then we lost against Liverpool. If you told me after 8 fixtures in the Premier League, we'd be on this many points after those fixtures, I'd be like, yeah, that's where we're supposed to be. We expected to lose against City, we expected to lose against Liverpool, but those rest of the results are kind of par for the course, winning 4 out of 6 of them.
Do you not think, though, in previous seasons, Bournemouth we would have lost, West Ham we would have lost, Wolves we would have lost.
But 2-2 at half-time, we ain't winning that game last season.
We're losing 4-2.
You're coming from the reality of it, and that's where you should come from. I'm talking about the standards. And we are Chelsea, right? And I know last 2 seasons have been great, finishing 12th and finishing 6th. But when I look at those runs, Wolves, Palace, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Forest, we should win 4 out of those 6 games. And so we are where I expect us to be. I suppose we can juxtapose it to where people expect us to be after the mess of the summer. Which is like Jay said, 4th or 14th. But I think we're where we're supposed to be. Now we need to kick on. We can't valiantly lose against Liverpool and then not win our next Premier League game against Newcastle. We need to beat Newcastle. But I'm really impressed with what I've seen in terms of the style of play. I really like what Maresca's done. I like his presence in press conferences as well. He's been asked a lot of difficult questions and he's kind of battered them away, and I know the noise is quieted down because we are getting decent results, but his demeanour is very, very important because we look at a team like Manchester United, for example. Eric Ten Hag's struggling because he's not a great communicator. I think Maresca's very clear and concise with his communication. That's serving him well in terms of making those decisive decisions. So I've been impressed, but I think we're where we're supposed to be right now.
What mark are you giving?
So what mark? Yeah.
What are you giving?
I'm giving them a B+.
I'm going to give an A-. Ben?
A-. I think they're on course for 80 goals, 70 points.
Love it. Hopefully that's enough for a top 4 finish. That'd be nice, isn't it? Tuesday, Wednesday, we have to go to games again.
Yes, I'm taking it now, Liv.
I actually do think, we're going to get onto off the field in just a second, but I actually do think when you look at the teams that are fighting for that 4th spot, I think we've got a very, very good chance of doing it. Villa in the Champions League, I think, will struggle next year, sort of the start of next year, if they're going so well in the Champions League. Spurs, you're not sure what you're ever going to get. Newcastle, I'm not sure either. So I think there's a real opportunity there. Right, let's get to matters off the field now, because there is a really, really messy situation going on between Todd Boehly and Bedad Eghbali. I mean, Ben, this is your stage.
Do you
want to go?
I can't stay out this one, this is all
We'll say goodbye to Jason Cundy.
I'm going to just sit and listen, Ben.
Okay, just first of all, you know what's going on inside the club better than most. Can you just please explain where we are right now with this situation between the two?
Yeah, I think it's professional and cordial. That's the first thing. Everyone's using this term civil war. It's not recognised by those within the club. But in essence, you've got Todd Boehly, who has the biggest individual personal stake, but still only owns 13% of the club. And he wants more control. And he is not as on board with the direction of travel, with the recruitment or the stadium plans. And some sources say also that he was more in favour of keeping Maurizio Pochettino, but in fairness, he had a veto, so could have stopped his departure, and he didn't. He went with the majority, and that's what you want, a collaborative model where there's freedom to challenge. So there is an onus on Todd Boehly now to find a solution. From Clearlake Capital's point of view, they are leading the club through Behdad Eghbali and Jose Feliciano. So if nothing changes, they're fine. They're the majority owner. So Todd Boehly's got a decision to make at this point. Does he continue on this path because it's actually going quite well? And because they have that cordial relationship, things may smooth over. Or does he try and push for change? And if he tries and pushes for change, there's no way back. So either Boehly would buy out Clearlake or fail, and then in likelihood be bought out himself. But Clearlake don't have to do that much because they're the majority owner. So status quo is fine for them. If Boehly wants to leave, they'll buy him out. And then the big question is, if Boehly makes an offer to Clearlake Capital, would they consider it? Because sources tell me that Behdad Eghbali and Jose Feliciano would automatically reject any bid from Todd Boehly. The Boehly side say there's other investors, and if they got a big return, then it may be that they recommend a sale. But again, the Clearlake side say the fund that controls Chelsea is what's known as discretionary. So without sending people to sleep, what it means is that Behdad Eghbali and Jose Feliciano are effectively running a form of trust fund. And the investors are basically beneficiaries that don't have control. And only the trustees can decide. So if Boehly makes an astronomical offer, every single investor as part of the Chelsea fund can't just say, we'd like that massive amount of money. It's only up to Behdad Eghbali and Jose Feliciano. And at the moment, sources say they'll reject anything, which means the most likely scenarios are Boehly will try, will fail, and then will leave, and Clearlake will own 100% of the club. Or alternatively, they'll get in a room, they'll make up, and the status quo will remain.
Do you think Behdad Eghbali doesn't really like the fact that Todd Boehly is almost the face of this whole thing? But I can't understand maybe why, because all Todd Boehly's done, it feels like, is just get stick from absolutely everyone. But where does Eghbali stand on that? Does he like that? Does he mind that?
I think it's not that personal between them necessarily, but it's true, like you rightly say, Boehly's the face of it, and if it works, then he'll get a lot of credit. But the reality is, Behdad Eghbali in particular is the single most important person at Chelsea Football Club. He's controlling everything. He's aligned to the sporting directors. He's more day-to-day than Todd Boehly. In 2027, Boehly will no longer be chair, and Clearlake Capital and Behdad Eghbali will pick the new chair. And in addition to that, Clearlake are driving this data-driven approach, this revamping of the medical department, this new set-piece department, the appointment of Enzo Maresca, the new stadium plans, whether they redevelop Stamford Bridge, build a new stadium or move away. It's all through Clearlake now. So I would say at the moment, it's not really about Behdad Eghbali being frustrated that Todd Boehly's making headlines. It's the other way round. It's Boehly that is frustrated because he's becoming increasingly ostracised.
With the whole stadium plans, is it Boehly that wants to stay at Stamford Bridge and redevelop it?
No, not necessarily. I think that when they won the bid, they had to put a plan in place on day one. And Todd Boehly hired the architect that did the Dodger Stadium renovation, leading people to assume that they were going to do stand-by-stand renovation at Stamford Bridge. And then another board member affiliated to Boehly by the name of Jonathan Goldstein did all of the planning permission, and everything was on track to either stay at Stamford Bridge or redevelop Stamford Bridge. Now, new Clearlake people have come in, particularly Jason Gannon, who's liked by all parties and one of the best in the business. And they're saying, hang on a minute, we want a Tottenham-like stadium. Jim Ratcliffe has just come in at Manchester United and said, I'm building a Wembley of the North. Maybe we should take a step back and say, instead of forcing ourselves to start a roadmap of something we can do today, tomorrow, i.e. stand-by-stand renovation, let's just exhaust all options. So I don't think that Bowley is against a new stadium. I think it's more the fact that this discussion over what's best for the stadium has had so many different voices that it's slowed the project down. But everyone, I'm told anyway, at the football club just wants the best possible stadium. And I think, I don't know what you think, Jason, but in a dream world, you do just have a brand new stadium like the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's just problematic with the geography.
There are so many variables of this that's been well documented over the years. Clearly, CPO has a huge say.
Yeah, I was going to say,
what
pitch
happens
owners
here
is
now.
huge.
You can't get beyond that because they have to get them on board. As a Chelsea fan, I don't want to move from Stamford Bridge.
No.
I'm very much aware that there's only so much you can do at Stamford Bridge because there's obviously the footprint that's there as well. Is there enough space? The access to and from, because you can only go in and out of Stamford Bridge on the Fulham Road.
Yeah.
There's only one road you can go to. There's only so many fans you can have. That's why they're talking about building a bridge over the cemetery on the other side. Look, it's unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be a perfect answer for every Chelsea fan because I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
Can I ask, obviously the situation is, you said it's not a civil war, but there's clearly two parties involved in it. Is it similar to the Arsenal situation where you had like the Usmanov and you had the Kroenkes and eventually Kroenkes bought out Usmanov? Because I feel like with Arsenal, in terms of clarity, in terms of vision, and Arsenal going in the right direction, that only really started when they sorted out the mess in the boardroom.
I think it basically comes down to this super speed in which the club was bought. And Clearlake Capital and Todd Bowley and Bowley's partners didn't know each other. They hadn't worked together. So it was a bit of a blind date, effectively. And Bowley thought, when he bought the club, that he would be the face, he'd be the Jim Ratcliffe minority owner with all of the control, and Clearlake Capital might be a bit more silent. And it was apparent from day one that Behdad Eghbali and his team were not going to be that. So then, of course, who wins in a battle, in a debate, in a vote between a majority owner and a minority one? It's always going to be Clearlake Capital. So it's not so much civil war, it's just to buy the club at speed. Bowley was driving everything and thought that may continue. And now Clearlake Capital are saying, we don't only want a return on investment, we want to be hands-on, they're passionate about football. So of course you would expect the majority owner to want to protect that asset. And as they've gone through this turmoil, not just with Chelsea, they've learnt about each other. And I think they've come to the realisation that there are seemingly some irreconcilable differences. But I tell you something, when a team wins, irreconcilable differences can disappear very quickly.
I was going to say, when was the last time we actually heard about all of this? Because we've been doing well and it's all gone silent.
Do you know what? It is amazing football. Whatever goes on the pitch normally dictates the way the club is perceived, not just on the inside, but on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think with Chelsea, though, we're so used to it because if you take it at face value with Roman Abramovich, it was chaos consistently, but like you say, we were winning trophy after trophy after trophy, sacking manager after manager, and we didn't mind because the success was coming. So as long as the performances on the pitch maintain, I think Chelsea fans won't be too bothered about what's going on upstairs.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, that is it from this week's Inside Chelsea. Thank you so much for your company, and thank you to Jace, Kweku and Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've absolutely loved it. We will see you next time here on Inside Chelsea.